I mean, she couldn't handle the mustache. Like the Wrangler jeans, the mustache, my wife. In fact, I'm flirting with her right now. She doesn't even know it.
Flirt with purpose. Yeah, this one kind of struck me because it's one of those things where I've always had to watch my mouth. You mentioned in the book being gregarious and want to be the funny guy.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've overstepped with my mouth. So my question to you is, moment by moment, how do we manage that tension?
The tension with us gregarious, extrovert guys is we have to be without being. Men in the Arena Army, we salute you. Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the Men in the Arena podcast. I'm Jim Ramos, your host and guide, leading you to your best version in the stress bubble of life and beyond. Welcome to today's episode. Guys, as you know, today we're going through my new book, Guardrails, 10 Boundaries for an Unbreakable Marriage. I've got my good friend here, Mark McDonnell. Mark has been married to his beautiful bride, Debbie, for 47 years. You can't write books about that. That is a book. He's got 3 adult children from 45 down to 33. He spent most of his career as a sawyer in an old growth lumber mill. I don't even know what that is. I'm just kidding. And he's here to talk to you about our guardrail today, Flirt with Purpose. Mark, it's such a great honor to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, first of all, I know what a millwright is. I've heard these things. I don't know what a sawyer is. And explain to those in the flatlands of most of the country what old growth is, and then explain what a sawyer does.
Well, an old growth log is something that's very large, and we used to call them one load logs. So imagine one log on a log truck. And the sawmill that I worked at was a 32-foot sawmill. So we could saw up to 6 foot across the butt. And a sawyer is where the log rolls onto like a railroad train carrier and goes back and forth in front of a bandsaw that's 2 stories, 2 feet wide, that has what they call gullets or teeth on it, about 2 inches. They're carbon teeth. And so, yeah, it would be large planks of wood that would be coming off of that.
Okay, so I have a question. Okay, so an old growth is 150 plus 300 years old, and those sometimes I've seen pictures of 20 feet in diameter.
Yeah.
The max you can cut is 6 foot diameter. Is that what I heard you say?
6 across. So
what does that mean?
Across the butt of the end of the log. So we had a father and son crew that would come in with these one log loads, and they'd have to quarter these large logs in the mill pond before they could even get in the sawmill.
So quartering them lengthwise, like taking a banana and cutting into 4 pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy cow, that's a giant log. That's a giant. Well, I've seen them, up to 20 feet at least in diameter. Yeah. So you see pictures of these guys. Well, anyway, we can spend a lot of time on that because I've got a lot of questions. But let's just jump in to today's episode. And you talked, and this is an average Joe episode, but it's funny, 47 years marriage, that's a PhD episode. So you don't get there on accident. You get there through a lot of hard work. So I do want to talk about that and bring that throughout the podcast. But tell me about the chapter on Flirt with Purpose and questions you have or takeaways you might have, and we'll see what we can do with it.
Flirt with Purpose. Yeah, this one kind of struck me because it's one of those things where I've always had to watch my mouth, right? You mentioned in the book being gregarious and want to be the funny guy.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've overstepped with my mouth.
Yep.
And then actually embarrassed my wife and had to apologize when I was trying to be funny, or that old thing, just joking, right? Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, moment by moment, how do we manage that tension?
That's a good question. So this is the funny part. So this book, I would say 60% of this book was written at the local Starbucks. I love Starbucks coffee, and they donate all our coffee to our Wednesday night gathering. And it's 20 years of going in there and knowing the gals, the baristas that work there for 2 decades, right? So I acknowledge these gals in this book. But the hard part is you go in there and they know the drink, and you kind of have back and forth a little bit, and because you've known these people for a long time. But for me, it's the difference between being friendly and being flirty. So I want to be friendly because I want to win people to Christ. A friend of mine gave me this bracelet. It's made by a guy named James Avery out of Texas, and it's fishing swivels, and it's to remind me that I'm a fisher of men. So when I go into the Starbucks, I'm always fishing. I mean, me and another pastor have prayed with multiple of the gals that work there, and we just try to be a witness to them, right? And you be that by being a light and shining. The problem or the tension with us gregarious extrovert guys is we have to be friendly without being flirty. So what I personally do is I weave Shanna into everything. Like I came in, I brought all of the gals a book. I gave them a copy of the book, and I'm like, hey, look, here's me and Shanna. So I wanted to make it clear, this is from me and Shanna. I weave her in everything. When she comes in, they go, oh, Shanna's here. I mean, she's like, they know her. And so I try to weave her into stuff because I just want these ladies to know, in the case of the Starbucks that I've acknowledged in the book, that I am a friendly, I am a man of God, and I am definitely off the market. But I'm going to tell you, I have had moments where there's a reason why a guy writes this book, right? Because I've struggled in some of these areas. I've never cheated. I've always been faithful. I've never even come close, never even been close to betraying the marital covenant with an adulterous affair. But the flirty thing, it's kind of something that comes pretty easy for talkers. And so I've had to work through that. And one of the verses that really impacted me is in Proverbs chapter 6, verses 12 through 15. In the book, I talk about the man who speaks with a perverse mouth. When you read that, you go, oh, that guy, those perverted guys. Oh, they're talking dirty. They're being disgusting. The word in the Hebrew language literally means speaking out of both sides of your mouth. So it's like a man who speaks with a forked tongue, And so it's saying one thing, but meaning another with your body language. It's saying this, but everybody in the room knows you're saying this. And it's really a nefarious way of communicating with the opposite sex. It says, well, I'm just testing the waters here. I'm not going to say anything that's inappropriate. I'm going to say just enough to see if you're going to bite. So it's almost like throwing manipulative lures out to people. I want to be a fisher of men. I want to throw gospel lures out to people. I don't want to use my words to lure a woman away from her husband or to lure myself away from my bride. I want to stay true to her, and I want to be very careful that what I say is speaking the truth in love, right? Ephesians 4:29 says, "Let no unwholesome word come out of your mouth." I can't remember the last part. There's a part that says, "Speaking the truth in love," isn't it right there? Yeah. In Ephesians 4:28, it says, "Let no unwholesome word come out of your mouth." And then in verse 30, it says, "For speaking the truth in love." So I want to make sure I'm always that guy. And I think the more I talk to guys, the more I realize, man, it's all about Jesus. If Jesus is on the forefront of my mind, and if my wife is right behind him, I should be okay. Right. But I don't want to lure. I don't want to speak out of both sides of my mouth. Does that make sense? And so for me, I've actually had to really curtail that because I'm an extrovert. Introverts, this may not be as much of a problem, but as we were talking about before the show, of the 10 guardrails, this one, flirt with purpose, may be the most nefarious because it usually starts with a flirty word or a compliment, something very, very small, and it compounds and compounds and compounds. We have to be really, really careful. So that's does that make sense?
Right. Because that compliment, and I've been caught with that, where, and the nefarious part, right? So I can have one attitude, but what's the other part of my thought? And am I really taking every thought captive, right? So I've had an experience where I've complimented another lady in front of my wife, and then later found out it was very hurtful to her. Yeah. And thinking that I was just being socially appropriate. But then as I reflect, was I really, or did I have something else double-minded in the back of my mind? Because, and I'd like to hear what you say, because like you, my love language is affirmation. So I feed off that.
Yeah.
And you have a part in the book where you had a situation in Hawaii where
yeah.
So I could very much relate with that because that would just be hook, line, and sinker, right? And then it gets you off your game a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you're just feeding your own ego a little.
The situation in Hawaii was funny because my wife walked in first. And so it's a store we go to regularly because she's a flight attendant. So we do these 24-hour vacations and on her layovers. And on this particular case, every time I'm in there, I'm with my wife. So it's never a problem. Well, this one time my wife came in first and she's talking to my wife, me in front of a very friendly lady. I don't even know her name. I mean, I'm not going to ask. And and as soon as I came in, she went, oh, everything went to me. And she's like, oh, look at, oh, and she actually touched my arms in front of my wife. And my wife was like, ah, and I knew, but again, I'm like, oh man, oh yeah, hey, hey, honey, how do you like my arms? Joking about it. But we have to be really, really careful that we don't allow those things to compound. We can't control when somebody comes at us with a compliment. We can't control if somebody starts a flirty conversation with us. We can't control that. But what we can control is what we do next. And so as men, I got a funny story in the book. I was at the gym working out. And when you go to a gym, everywhere wears headphones nowadays. And I don't wear headphones because I like to talk in between sets. And I like to, I've got guys I've known for 20 years in there. And there's one guy in there, and he's in the book. I call him by name. His name is Jeb. And they've given me permission. And this guy comes, he's 6'4", full of tattoos, real big, talks all the time. But he's just a big, demonstrative guy. And he's always talking about his smoking hot wife, how much he loves his wife and his kids, blah, blah, blah. And I noticed something peculiar because usually you go to the gym at the same time every day. I'm in there about 3:30 to 4, And I see him in there spending a lot of time with this really pretty blonde gal. And she'd been in there a lot before. And, they come in their yoga pants. And so I don't look at pretty girls. I don't acknowledge pretty girls. I don't smile at pretty girls. I just pretend they don't exist. But I'd noticed her because she works right in my area, in the HIIT workout area. Anyway, I see this guy flirting with her. And he's flirting with her a lot. Like he's always talking to her. And I finally went up to him. I go, bro, I've known him for 20 years. Bro, you're always talking about your beautiful wife. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing with that girl? What are you doing? I kind of confronted him. He goes, come here. And I could tell he's kind of he's getting real serious. He walks me over to her. He says, hey, Jim, I want you to meet my wife, Emily. Wow. And so whenever I see them together, I go, okay, she's married. Right. But see, that's the difference. That's the difference. My wife, your wife, Debbie, she deserves all of our compliments. And so we just have to be careful because my wife is the only one that deserves any of my flirtiness. I think if men learned how to flirt with their wives, I think that's the art, right? If you can flirt with your wife after 47 years, this morning I woke up early, I'm downstairs reading my Bible, and I get this text, come up and cuddle. So I just spooned her for like an hour, fell asleep together, and just that's what I'm talking about. And so our wife deserves that.
Yes, it is. Well, it's funny, in preparation for this, I asked my wife about my flirting, and 47 years, right?
Yeah.
So she really had to think a little bit, and it's funny because I've used the same humor so many times, right? And but it was a fun reflection on what she considered humor, and she tuned me up a little bit too to remind me what works and what didn't work. So that was a good reminder in this chapter. And my wife, like your wife, touch is her affirmation, her love language, her love language. And so I've been really intentional trying to have, as you say in the book, non-sexual touch, right?
Yes.
That can honor her in a way, not like I'm using it to get my means met, which all males do.
Yeah, we think about, I used to think about sex every 3 seconds. Now it's like every 7. Anyway, here's a funny story about flirting. It just happened this morning. So I have had hip surgery, had a hip replacement 3 weeks ago. So, and we're traveling, we're going from here to an airplane, going down to see our aging parents. And so I'm like, hey, honey, I need you to put the compression socks on me. So I'm out of the shower. You can imagine the scene. I'm in my shorts, and she's on her knees putting on my compression socks. But here's the funny part. I always joke with her that I have supermodel feet. And my feet, I'm just telling you, my feet are glorious. Like, I don't have to tell you, they're beautiful. So I could be a foot model. So my wife's down there, I go, getting turned on by those feet, aren't you? Those supermodel feet. And she looks at me and she's like, you're such an idiot. But it's just the flirting with it. Or I'll walk into the bathroom and she's getting dressed. I'm like, is it my birthday? If I walk in there and I'm buck naked, she'll be like, oh, you're so disgusting. Right. But with us as guys, to honor our wife through flirting, because our wives always say this about themselves: I'm not pretty enough, my body's not good enough, I'm older now, but she still wants to know this: does he want me? Does he desire me? Am I enough for him?
Well, I embarrass her all the time. In fact, we were with friends the other night, and she's going to hate me even saying this, but she is still rocking beautiful. She was best looking in our class, in our high school class, and has retained her beauty because she cares for herself, which really speaks to her love for me. And I actually had to use that for myself because, I was getting a little frumpy and she modeled that for me, right? So we got to take care of ourselves, and that's how we honor her. And, we all do that, the man dance when you get out of the shower and you're strutting. And they're so unimpressed, right?
Oh, it's like you're
it puts a smile on my face.
You're so well. So here's what I'll say. I'm gonna push back a little bit on what you said. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I am gonna add something to it. You said she looks beautiful because of her love for me, and I'm gonna say that's probably true. But after 47 years of marriage, she looks beautiful because of how much you've loved her and how well you've loved her. Because the Bible says the glory of a man is his wife. So you can tell how well a man has loved his wife by how well she presents herself. Does she present herself with poise and dignity? I just believe this. I have guys argue with me all the time about this, but are her eyes clear? Are her eyes alive? I know that we have life and we go through pain, and my wife, I remember flying down to Mexico. She had emergency surgery. She had to remove an ovary, a cyst off an ovary, and she just was looking rough. And I had to care for her for a week down there at an all-inclusive resort. It was rough for me, And then recently she had shoulder surgery, and I had to shave her armpits and wash her hair because she couldn't move her arm, right? And she looked, she didn't look the way she normally looks. But when she's healthy, we have to navigate these seasons with our brides, right? Like you're in a season right now, you're navigating stuff. And so we go through these seasons. And so that what matters is when they come out on the other side, or even during that season, are they being loved well? Does their face and their countenance reflect the glory of your love in her life? So I would just say, I'm not saying she doesn't want to look good for you. I'm just saying they don't just look good after 47 years of marriage. That means you were high school sweethearts. That means you guys are 66, 67, 68 years old. So at 68 years old, still rocking it. We dropped a Guardrails episode with Wes Smith, married 55 years. And when I first saw his wife, I was like, whoa, bro, high five me on that. 78 years old, and she's just gorgeous. A 20-year-old guy's going to go, oh, she looks like an old, but she was just stunning in her countenance and her poise and her dignity and her strength and her, you know what I mean? And your wife is the same way. So it's more about how we treat them.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll humbly take that.
Yeah.
But it's like I've always thought, like, how she picked me, I don't ever know. Because I redhead, long hair down to my shoulders, and this stunning gal. But she must have saw something in me. So
I've heard those ginger guys pull. For me, it was the mustache. She couldn't handle the mustache. Like the Wrangler jeans, the mustache. My wife. In fact, I'm flirting with her right now. She doesn't even know it. She'll be watching this. You talked about the mustache. It's like, I'll tell her, hey, hey, baby, the mustache. You want me to grow that back for you? She's like, no, because you'd look like a porn star, with a bald head. I'm like, man, but I'll flirt. We just flirt. And I think this is important. So, okay, so let's, what are some ways that you flirt? But what, any other ways or methods you can talk to these young guys and help them out and teach them how to flirt? Because these young guys have kids in the home. Their wife may be breastfeeding. Their wife might be like, hey, the factory is shut for business. These are not sexual. These are milk producing. This is what happened in my marriage. These are for production. Do not touch. So there's a season where it's like, these are for children. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not for pleasure. And so, for these guys that are going through those seasons with their wife, what would you tell these younger guys about how they can flirt with purpose with their brides?
I think so. I didn't have a mustache. I had my football outfit is what she liked. I was a middle linebacker.
Me too.
So taking care of your physical self. Now, I'm not quite as buff as you are, and I have goals to improve.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, taking care of yourself, thinking about your attire, not just wearing what's comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Because we still want to be attractive to our wives.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that has to be a conscious choice. But for me, it's humor. I like to compliment her, and I do embarrass her. And she says she hates it, but I got to think underneath she likes it a little bit.
I would agree with you based on what I would agree with you because it's the way she says she hates it. My wife, you're gross. I know.
So I think just appreciating her and noticing little things. That's what I've come to learn as I've got older. It doesn't have to be a big, showy thing. It could be, I'll tell a little funny on myself. Like, I like to get flowers for her once in a while. And I got a little overplayed that for a while because I would get the Safeway flowers on cheap Friday.
That's the only one my wife wants. She doesn't want the fancy ones. She just wants to know I thought about her when I went to Trader Joe's.
Right. There you go.
That's what she wants, and they better be tulips.
Right. But you don't always get the ones that are on sale, see?
Yeah.
And so now what I've switched is she's into gardening and planting. So she likes a plant where something she can keep. So those are just some.
So I'll tell you a funny story. It's funny, we can just talk, we can just tell real life stories. So this just happened last weekend. So I serve on the Young Life Committee in our area. It's what we do as our volunteer service. I tell these guys all the time, I'm a paid Christian, so I've got to volunteer and do the Christian things that the guys that aren't paid do. So I volunteer with Young Life, and we were at this running event. And when I was there, I mean, I'm barely walking. I just had surgery, and I go to the physical therapist. There's a physical therapist booth, and he actually is a kid who was in my youth group. So now he's in his 30s. He goes, "Hey, Jim, try this grip strength test." And I'm like, I'm a pencil. Okay, I wasn't a Sawyer. I'm a pencil pusher. I'm a computer guy. I'm this guy. You know, I'm like, oh man, I don't have a strong grip, and I've had a neck injury in college, and this side doesn't have all the nerve, back. And I said, oh man, I'm kind of talking myself out. He goes, no, go ahead. So I did it, and he goes, and I did this side, and he goes, yeah, this side is a 166, and this side is a 168. He goes, you're in the top 100 percentile. And then the funny part is we're sitting there talking, and they announce the winner, 150 people, the winner of the grip strength contest is Jim Ramos. Okay, so I win so I win it was probably me and 2 7-year-olds did it, but I win. A W's a W, right? Yeah. So then for the last 2 weeks, I've been, hey, honey, you want these hands to rub your feet? I won a grip strength contest. I mean, I'm just milking this thing for all it's worth. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're pathetic. I'm like, hey, you want a back rub with the grip strength hands? I go, the feet are supermodel feet, and the hands, these hands, do you know how strong these hands are? I said, I want you to make a shirt that says, I won the grip strength contest. So I'm just driving her crazy, but I'm flirting with her. So see what I'm saying? Yes. Hey, I'm rubbing her feet that night because we do a lot of foot rubbing for her. She loves the foot rub. She'll sit there, we'll watch TV, and I'll rub her feet. And I'm rubbing her feet, and I'm like, how's that? She goes, oh. And then she said to me, I can tell you won a grip strength contest. I'm like, that's my girl right there. Right. But do you see what I'm saying? So 60 years old, married 33 years, and still flirting. I think that's really important. But you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to go to a Starbucks barista and go, hey, man, you know what these hands did? Right? Because that's completely nefarious, perverse tongue speaking out of both sides of my mouth.
Yeah. No, I love that. The use of humor and overplaying it to the point where it's a little silly.
Overplaying it. And I think flirting, I think you said something really good. You and I are spitballing and laughing about this because this is all unscripted. But I think flirting and humor are two sides of the same coin. Because, I mean, when I'm flirting, I'm not trying to get anything. Well, usually. I'm just affirming her position in my life. And that she's still, and I think this is important, that she still got it. She still attracts me. She still can lure me in with her beauty, with her dignity, with her poise, with her eyes, with her body, with her shape, and I think that's important. And then because I'm visually oriented and she's not, like what I see does more for me than what she sees for her when she looks at me, right? But it's this bantering, not bickering, but bantering. But you think is your flirting ever not fun?
No, it's always fun. As long as she's ready to receive it, or, because the overplay part is where I could do a little bit too much too. I run it into the ground, right? Got to get some fresh stuff after 47 years.
Yeah, you got to find some new material.
New material.
So you got to go home and say, "Hey, Debbie, talk to Jim on the podcast. He won this grip strength contest. I don't know, man. Can I try mine on yours? You tell me what you think of my grip strength. Or how do these feet look? Are these supermodel feet?"
No, I have other attributes.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean? But I mean, just, I think for me, it's plain. And I think for introverted guys, I think this might be harder.
Yeah.
But I think it's important nonetheless.
Right. But I think for the extroverted guys, and as you just were talking about, how humor is that double-edged sword where it can be used for evil. And I know for myself, I have hurt people with my humor.
Yes.
Or hurt my wife with unintended humor. And so I think being mindful of that, and that taking every thought captive has been on my heart for some time. Just really trying to monitor myself.
Yeah, this chapter really, really works well with my compliment with caution chapter. Like, these are verbal cues. These are verbal innuendos, lures. These are it starts very, very small. I cannot tell you how many relationships I've seen decimated with a seemingly innocuous compliment, with a seemingly funny and semi-flirtatious and innocent flirty thing. These are very, very dangerous. They're more dangerous. Well, think about Satan in the garden. All Satan said to Eve was, "Did God really say?" That's all he said. Did God really say? And if we can get if a man in this nefarious complimenting or flirting, if he can get a woman, I don't want to say if he can get, because that's not the goal, but if he says something out of both sides of his mouth that gets her to doubt her position as somebody else's bride, that is an open door into adultery. And people say, no. And I'm like, oh, really? I can tell you dozens and dozens and dozens of stories, and it all started right there. In counseling appointments, a counseling appointment with a coworker. These are people you see every day, and so you see them every day. So it started here, and 6 months later, it's in the bed sheets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just guarding our minds, because obviously Satan is eager to use those little lures on the negative side.
Well, you quoted 2 Corinthians 10:5, I think it is, taking every thought captive. And I have a friend who said something really cool, gave me a real beautiful word picture. He said, I just build a moat around my mind and let nothing come in. And in my book, Dialed In, I talk about my last chapter. So my first chapter and my last chapter are the most important chapters. The last chapter is the disciplined man, and it's based on the Greek word sophron, and that's a compound word in the Greek. In other words, two words put together, and the two words are safe mind. That you have the ability to lock it down. So even though you're gregarious, outgoing, extrovert personality, you're engaged with you have an engaging waitress or an engaging barista or an engaging grocery clerk. Even though that happens, you have the ability to discipline your mind, make decisions against your natural propensity and tendencies, and to say something that's going to honor God and honor your wife instead of opening a door to adultery. It's a really important, man, I'll tell you what, 47 years of marriage. Before we leave, I want you to look this camera, I want you to look over here and tell these guys one thing that they can do. You can pick any, it doesn't have to be on topic. One thing they can do to love their bride for almost 5 full decades. What's the one pro tip you can give these guys?
I would say remind yourself every morning what you have and make a conscious choice to love your bride, because it can slip away so quickly.
So, I mean, there's so much power in what you said. Bride, you called her a bride, not your wife. You said it can slip away. Make a conscious choice. That conscious choice is actually agape love. So that's really good, Mark. Mark, I appreciate you. Getting to know you is one of my, what I didn't say is you're one of our Wednesday night leaders. We have a service with almost 100 guys every week, and you're one of our table leaders. Really have enjoyed you being there, and look forward to keep getting to know you more and more. And but don't touch my feet. And don't try to shake my hands because I will crush you.
Oh, yeah.
Because I won a grip strength contest.
Well, I got a pretty good grip, too.
I'm just teasing, man. Hey, it's great having you on the show, buddy.
Thank you, brother.
Hey, guys, we're talking about guardrails for the next couple of weeks. And if you want to get a copy of this, just go on to Amazon. Support our ministry. It'd really, really help us out. Appreciate you guys. Until next time, feel the wet sand on the arena floor. Hear the deafening roar of the crowd. Taste the sweetness of victory. Smell the stench of battle. Get in the game. Get dirty. Grind it out. Flirt with purpose and be a man.